It's Corso and Catone. Brought to you by Corso Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Now for the real deal New England feel, Corso and Catone.
Welcome into Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. I'm Corso. Catone is here. Joe's with us in the booth, and you're watching us on YouTube, listening on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, anywhere you podcast, and 790 The Score in Rhode Island. And, hey, give us a call and Heated Hotline, 855-313-PATS, P-A-T-S, 24/7. It's a message line. Leave us a message. Anything's on the table. Have a take. Let us know about the draft, Bruins, Celtics, anything you want to talk about, or you can email us in our mailbag, corso.catone@gmail.com. Got a good one tonight. It's draft time. It's draft time.
Yeah.
It's draft night.
It's draft. Well, we're recording on Thursday, so it hasn't actually started yet for us. But by the time you watch this, they'll have picked at least, what, 1 or 2 picks, possibly 3 picks, 4. Who knows, you know? So
they'll have ruined the first 2 picks.
They'll have ruined the first 3 rounds. So by the time you listen, but we'll get a good one. We're going to talk B's and C's, the playoffs. Of course, Catone's comments. You never want to miss that. And we'll hear from one of you in the nation in Heated Hotline. And we'll go Pat's Nation. We're going to talk to you guys about what you can pick up in the 4th, 5th, 6th rounds, which is when this is going to air. That will be happening. So stick around for that. But, hey, make sure you tune in next week because we're going to have our whole draft recap, everything the Patriots did. Mark's already, he's already irritated, Joe.
God, please, because I know what they're going to do. I know what they're going to do. And you're going to love it because you always love defense.
You know what? Don't.
Yeah.
He's always got to. Yeah, and it begins. But before we do that, we have to talk some playoff talk for Bruins and Celtics. And we're going to do it in B's and C's, Joe. Let's have it.
Heated over the Boston Celtics are the world champions, and they have shown the world how great a ball club they really are. Screen shot,
All right, so Mark, they're into the playoffs now. Listen, Joe, this is a great title for the show. That B's and C's are making us batch blank crazy, and they are.
Yeah.
They are. You know, I thought the actual title would be Bruins stink, Celtics are soaring, but then something happened this week, right? Now they're both getting ready to play this evening in one game 4 for the Bruins, and for the Celtics it'll be game 3. But let's talk Celtics first, Mark, okay? Because I know that's you're very irritated about this. So they 1-1 in the series coming up on game 3. Shockingly 1-1 in this series. Yeah.
Because we both thought if they were going to lose a game to Miami, maybe they'd lose 1 at Miami. Not the way they lost it in Boston.
Right. So here's the thing. Game 1, I think game 1 pretty much went how we thought it would. And it was kind of irritating because they took 53 pointers. And this is to your point, Mark. They're going to live and die by this thing. They were shooting like 44, 45% from 3-point. And naturally they won by 20. Okay. Now, let's shift though. And, Tatum had his triple-double, low numbers, not really anything spectacular, but he did the things that needed to be done.
Everybody was happy.
Everybody was nice and happy. Now we go to game 2. So they lose by 10. They took 32 3-point shots, okay, in game 2. So they took less, but the percentage was bad. I mean, they took 32. They were 12 for 32, 37%. Now, let me preface all this by saying the Heat broke a record, a franchise record. They with 23 3-pointers. They broke that record. They were 23 of 43. They shot 53%. Yeah, that's not. I don't see that ever happening
again. Nope, that's not happening again in the series. Nope.
But there are reasons that they were able to do that, Mark, which I know you want to get to. So let's talk game 2. Why the hell is this series 1-1, and why should it be?
Well, first
Why
of all,
shouldn't
Chris,
it be?
you're right.
Is really what
Well,
I.
Chris, first of all, before I get into why they shot 53% from the 3-point line, before I get into that, once again, Chris, a playoff game where the Celtics going to show some toughness because Miami pushed and played physical and banged them. Guys that, Brown got in Caleb Martin's face because of a hard foul on Tatum. Really? No. They upped the physicality because Spoelstra knows this you're going to knock the Celtics off their game if you do that. And that's what they did. They weren't necessarily, Chris, slamming guys to the floor, but it was putting arms on guys, hands on guys, just touching guys when they were looking for shots and moving and cutting through screens, just touching and grabbing guys, Chris. When I say physical, in today's NBA, that's all you can do. It's physical, right? But that knocked the Celtics off their game, Chris. They weren't able to get those wide open threes, those free threes. To your point, they only took, 30-something of them, 32?
For
right?
32, yeah.
32.
Yeah.
And they didn't hit
They
a
were
lot of
only
them.
37.
But that was because, and then Spoelstra, Chris, did what he did last year, mixed up the defense, threw a zone at him, threw man-to-man, was running traps full court, was just doing things that you see college teams do. He wasn't playing an NBA type of game. He threw the kitchen sink at them, and your buddy, Sleepy Joe, just kept his same game plan. Didn't change, didn't adjust, or couldn't adjust. Just, again, he outcoached them. But, Chris, 53% from the three-point line because nobody was running out and playing them, Chris. There was no closeout defense. They'd run off a screen. Guy would get a ball. Guy for the Celtics would look at them and let them take the shot. There was
It was
no
like a shoot-around.
That's all it was a shoot-around. Celtics made no effort on defense, Chris, to close out, try to put a hand in a face. Nothing. They just gave them wide-open threes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, listen.
It's totally disgusting.
There's nothing earth-shattering secret about it. The special sauce. You don't play defense. You don't run out on it. You don't. You're going to allow if you allow to shoot around, you allow guys like Hero to get hot and start hitting those shots. They're going to hit them for the whole game. They're NBA players. I mean, this is what they do, and it just pisses you off, like you say, that there was no adjustment being made. And so all this, we talked about this. That the problem this team's going to have, and I still think they're going to get through this series. I think they're going to beat
absolutely.
the Heat.
They'll get through the series.
But now, my idea of, well, it's Denver we got to figure out how to beat. Listen, I back that up a little bit. I'll come backward a little bit more. I'm worried now about Milwaukee a little bit, if Giannis is healthy. I'm more worried about these teams because if the Celtics are going to play this way, then they're not going to get out of the East, Mark.
Chris,
I mean,
look, Chris, who's playing as good as anybody right now? The team that you didn't like all year, Cleveland. Yeah. You're going to have to play Cleveland in the next round, probably, Chris.
Yeah, I was nervous about Cleveland. And when they had Randall, I was nervous about New York. Those were the teams that I was a little more concerned about than Milwaukee. But this whole idea about the physicality, I think this nonsense is being overplayed. I think, like you said, it's in their head now. Like, in other words, the NBA doesn't allow physicality. I'm gonna,
no.
It's
that's why, Chris. When I say physicality, they were just touching guys, grabbing shirt. Like that's all you do now in the NBA. But it's still, Chris, as you said, got in their heads because you see. Brown is in a guy's face because he thought it was a hard foul on Tatum. Come on, really?
I mean, the experts are out there talking about, you got to match the physicality. All the Heat have is to get physical and be tougher than you're tough, and you're tougher than. Look, nobody in the NBA is tough. Let's just, who the hell's tough in the NBA? There is no such thing as tough anymore. That Martin foul, say it was dirty, whatever. The bottom line is if you don't play defense, you don't run out on 3-point, you don't adjust, you don't rotate over, you don't do the things that you're supposed to do on defense, you're going to get beat. And you couple that with needing to shoot 3-pointers and shooting so poorly. Now, Mark, they beat in the paint 46-26. Okay. But the next question I have for you is, what the hell happened to Porzingis? Because we said the new guys are going to have to be the ones. I mean, how do you shoot? He was 1 for 9. Okay. Am I getting that right? Yeah. He was 1 for 9. He had 6 points. Okay.
Chris,
8 rebounds.
Chris, listen, but listen.
And 1 for 9 and 0 for 4 and 3-point.
But Chris, listen, I'm going to go to your point earlier in the year. I forget who they were playing, and you said Porzingis could score 50 points. Just give him the ball. Miami, Chris, at times had a 6'5" guard
I know.
playing Porzingis, playing behind him, and they were trying to get
Robinson
another.
was on him at times.
And they were trying to get a guard to front them. Just throw the ball in there and let him back into the basket. Like, I don't even know what they were calling for. He shouldn't be taking a three-pointer against that team because they got nobody in the paint that can stop him. Just kick it in and let him score. Just
You don't need to
there.
pull. It's not like it's not like you're playing a big where you got to get him out of the lane, where you got to pull him out.
He's not playing Jokic, Chris, where you got to try to pull him out and take 3-pointers. Just kick the ball inside against this team. And Jokic should be able to score at will. Porzingis should be able to score at will against this team.
Yeah. And so, and the other problem too is, Holiday. Okay. So look, if I don't see Holiday with more assists, I don't think they got a chance, which means he's not touching the ball enough. Derek White, same thing. Look, Derek White in this game, he had 4 assists. So between the two of them, they had 7 assists. That's it. You can't. You guards can't have 7 assists. What that tells me is there's no sets.
Chris,
sets
it's one-on-one. That
no
same
spacing.
old one-on-one isolation that you complain about all the time with them, where they're taking the ball by themselves and dribbling, and what Brown and Tatum and all those guys have traditionally done. What you've been screaming about for 2 years. 7 assists tells you, Chris, that's what they did.
Right. Talk to me about Tatum in the second half of this game.
So, 2 things, Chris. First, I don't understand why in these playoff games, Tatum and Brown aren't on the floor together for long stretches of time. I don't know what that is about. Like, he'll bring one in and then go rest the other one. Like, that's a whole issue I have with his substitution patterns. I still don't understand him, but that's a whole other issue. But Tatum, Chris, again, for whatever reason, if he doesn't get into the flow of the game early, he disappears. He backs off, becomes a spectator. Usually he tries to create and get assists and kick balls out. Yesterday he wasn't even doing that, Chris. If you looked at it, a lot of times he was just standing around watching what was going on. There was not a lot of movement. He wasn't trying to create. Like, he disappeared last night from the second half of that third quarter to the fourth quarter. There was a couple of times, Chris, he drove to the basket and got fouled, and he went to the foul line. But you didn't see Tatum trying to take control of anything to try to get them going. Brown tried it. Brown put him, he helped him at the end of the first half. He hit like 3-4 3-pointers in a row. Tatum just, Chris, nothing. Once he gets in that mode, it's almost like, I'm not involved. He checks out. And I don't know if it's intentional, but that's what seems to happen.
Yeah. So again, these are all things that we talked about going into the playoffs, that if you're going to lose, these are going to be your guys have to be your guys. Your dudes have to be your dudes in the playoffs in the NBA. That's it. Now we talk about the bench, but
he scored
the dudes
points.
have to be the dudes.
Tatum scored points, but they weren't meaningful points to me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So again, I think they get past the Heat, but I'll tell you something, Mark. If this thing comes back to Boston, it's 2-2. It's 2-2. It's a dogfight right to the end. The Heat have no business being in this series.
The Heat are so
no
overmatched.
business. Because if the Heat take this team to 7, you're going to lose to Cleveland. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
You're going to lose that series, Cleveland.
Listen, I still think we get through the East, but my prediction a month ago when we talked about the playoffs, you said, Mark, did they win it? Yes or no? I said no, because I didn't think they could beat Denver 4 times based on the 2 games I watched against Denver, based on what I've only seen after 2 playoff games. They better hope somebody beats Denver, Chris, because they're not going to beat Denver 4 times. So somebody out west is going to have to beat them for the Celtics. And
you know what?
The West is competitive, Chris. Somebody could beat Denver out there. But the Celtics aren't beating Denver 4 times. They're going to need somebody else to make the finals.
And lastly, I don't want to hear I don't want to hear this crap anymore from them, Mark. Hey, we knew they were going to bring it. We knew they were going to get pissed off. Come on,
You
Tatum.
bring it.
Get pissed off.
Well, you
Get
bring it then.
pissed
Why didn't you?
that you
Yeah.
lost that game? Get
Why didn't you
pissed
bring it?
off. You should be pissed that you lost that game. Not, well, we knew that, they were going to show up and they were going to play
Okay.
Missoula. Get pissed off. Get pissed off. Pull a little Garnett out of your ass, and start doing that. Right,
They
Mark?
don't have that. They don't have that, Chris, on this team.
No, they don't have a rat on the team like the next team we're going to talk about in the Boston Bruins. Okay, Mark. So this team, I don't even know what to make anymore of this situation, but we're going to try. So the Bruins are up 2-1 in the series. They lose the game at home, and then they go up to Toronto. They win game 3. Now they're going to play game 4 tonight. Let's start with the goalie rotation, okay? We knew they were going to do it. They did it. Swayman stood on his head in game 1, I thought. In game 2, you got Ullmark, who didn't play terribly, but he had the save percentage and all that. The second goal was kind of soft. I will say it was soft. That right in front of his net there. So looking at this, let's talk about the goalies first, because then they go back to Swayman, has another fantastic game, owns Toronto. He's now 5-0 against Toronto this year. Meanwhile, Ullmark's 1-1. So talk to me about the goalies, and I'm going to get to some other things that I think are wrong here.
So, Chris, I would not rotate the goalies right now. I would stick with Swayman, finish this out as quickly as possible, and get on to the next round. But I'm going to tell you their philosophy, Chris. They're going to play Ullmark tonight because they don't want him to sit too long in between his next game that he's going to play. Why are you going to play him again?
Who
if
cares?
If Swayman starts standing on his head, just keep rolling with him. But so they don't want him that long of a break before Ullmark goes back in the pipes. So they're going to continue with this rotation, Chris.
Yeah.
No team that's won a Stanley Cup in the last 10, 15 years has had a goalie rotation. They just don't, Chris. You get your hot goalie, you ride him, and that's who leads you to a cup. Not, today it's his turn, tomorrow it's his. Like, that's craziness. That is absolute craziness that they're doing this. And I know they did it all year. I get it. But you and I both said, but when you get to the playoffs, if one of them gets hot, you're going to ride them. It doesn't appear they're going to do that, though, Chris. It's insanity.
It is. Oh, okay. Yeah. So what? He's resting too long. You're winning, though. I thought the goal was to win. Maybe I'm, I don't know. And then, Mark, the other problem here is, again, we talk about the defense, but we talk about one thing that hasn't been mentioned much, a little bit I heard this week, is the long stretches of time where you're not getting shots. I mean, they go long stretches in these series so far where, let's face it. Look, Toronto, to me, has outplayed them. They've outplayed them in
Chris,
this series
the beginning of that game yesterday, Chris, they outplayed them. And then it's like Toronto had a lapse yesterday.
Right.
After they took the lead, Toronto had a lapse. And the Bruins scored the goal, and they took the lead. But it was Toronto, Chris, who was dominating early in that game yesterday. And then it was like they lapsed into I don't know what, and the Bruins caught fire.
Right.
And then in game 2, they were dominated by Toronto. And there were stretches in game 1 that Toronto dominated. But, the Bruins won the game. But the Bruins, Chris, if you looked at the total minutes of the 3 games, Toronto has played better for longer stretches than the Bruins have. I know the Bruins are up 2-1. I get that. In game 2, Chris, anytime the fourth line was on the ice, they couldn't clear their own end. They couldn't get the puck out of their own end in game 2. They were better yesterday. But in game 2, the fourth line played awful.
No, I know. And again, I talk about the long stretches. Look, Toronto sucks in their own end.
They do.
They're terrible in the corners in their own ends, and they got a goaltending problem. So what I don't understand is why the Bruins can't get the puck into their end, into Toronto's end, work off the boards, and score goals, peppering this guy with shots because he sucks, the goaltender. So, I don't know why they're not consistently getting that done, and I don't know why they're not consistently getting shots on. And the other thing is, Coyle, I'm going to talk about Marchand in a second, but Coyle, McAvoy. Look, you're not getting enough from McAvoy. His performance in game 1 and 2 sucked. Flat out sucked. Now, he was better in game. He played real good defense in game 3. It's what you want from him. You're not getting any offense out of him, and that's something you may never get from him. But you got to at least expect him to play as a top-end defenseman, and they're ace doing that. Now, I get it. He's paired with garbage on the other side. I understand that.
So
he's carrying the load. on that line, but you got to expect more from him. He gave it to you last night. Expect that. Lindholm, look, I guess he is what he is at this point, but he's a liability out there. You lose Geeky, that's a big
hurts.
loss on defense. It is.
And I don't know how long he's going to be out for, but that's a big loss.
And I like the fact that they bench Grizzlick because he's,
let
again,
me ask
another
you a
liability.
question, Grizzlick, though, right? Grizzlick's salary, Chris, is not cheap, like $3 million, $4 million, $3 million. We talked about this at the trade deadline, Chris. Just dump him. Give him up for nothing. Dump him. Get that salary off your roster. Somebody would have taken him. You play him in the regular season, Chris. Then come the playoffs, you bench him. You don't play him. They did the same thing last year. Why is he still on the roster? They should have dumped him. They have salary cap issues and they don't dump him. So now it's playoff time and he's back on the bench.
Well,
you and I could have called that.
And the last thing too, now, I was pissed off at Coyle. I gave him so many props during the season, and he hasn't been much. He got an assist in the last game. He's got to be better. Got to be better on faceoff. And I was going to slam Marchand tonight.
But you can't.
He scored 2 goals. Well, you know what though? He got back to being that rat, that dirty rat. And he and Bertuzzi got into it.
That's what he has to do in this series.
He has to be that guy. That's the only way he plays well is when he's getting, don't worry about the C on your sweater. You know what I mean? Forget the C on your sweater. Be the rat, dirty rat, son of a bee that you know how to be. And now you get the goals. And now you're getting the assist. And now you're dictating to them. Mark, that's the only way. But they shouldn't be having a problem with Toronto in this series. They're getting outplayed. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Let us know in Heated Hotline what you think of both the Celtics and the Bruins. But B's and C's was presented by Corso Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm, corsolawgroup.com. Allow us to be your voice. Hey, when we come back, he's firing up right now. So stick around. Catone's Comments is next.
No one ever thinks they will be in need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Call or go online to corsolawgroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys who I know will help.
Time for Catone's Comments!
Listen, it's the draft. It's the draft. We know it's draft weekend. It's the best time of the year. Absolutely best time of the year. However, I am going to say this. I have to touch on what I feel is just leading up to this draft, things that came out of free agency for the Patriots, because this is really what's driving what we're going to have to do this weekend, right? So even if they crush the draft this week, even if they crush it, you're in the middle of a multi-year rebuild with this team. Look at the talent level on this team. And what do? We go and re-sign this talent level to extensions. Are you kidding me? You went during free agency and re-signed bums and stiffs to extended contracts, except for maybe one guy that I'll get to. Then you bring in Jacoby Brissett in free agency. Was that the best we could really do at quarterback in free agency? I don't care whether you're taking a quarterback at 3 or not, and you're going to sit him, and you need somebody to teach him. Was Jacoby Brissett the best you could do for a year at that position? And you want to be competitive and try to win? Come on. I mean, really? The KJ Osborne at wide receiver? He was your pickup? Listen, he's an okay player. There's nothing wrong with him. He'll make some catches. He'll get some yards. He'll get a few touchdowns for you. But he's still a 3-4 receiver on pretty much most teams in the league. So how is he an upgrade? Then Elliot Wolf says, I like our wide receiver room. We got a lot of good professional players in there. What? You like that wide receiver room. So then maybe it wasn't Bill Belichick. Maybe the scouting department thinks that the wide receiver room isn't an issue. Just like they did last year. They didn't take one. Maybe this freaking draft team doesn't think that wide receiver is an issue. Because that comment was asinine, and then you sign Osborne. The only good free agent signing they had was Michael Owenu, because Owenu, I think, went under the radar. I don't think they got as much props for signing him. I will give them props for signing him because you needed him because he can play guard and tackle. He's got that flexibility. You're going to need that with this offensive line because this offensive line needs help. Okay? They definitely need help. Now, Robert Kraft, if you didn't think he was cheap and didn't want to spend money, this free agency convinced you. With all of the cap money we had, our biggest splash was Kyle Duggar. Guaranteed money was Kyle Duggar. He's not even a top 5 safety in the league. I would argue maybe not even top 10. And you gave him all that guaranteed money because it was still cheap money. He didn't spend a lot of money. Look at all the guys that we signed. All cheap money, very little guaranteed money. Because that's not the pay. That wasn't Bill Belichick's Patriot way. That was Bob Kraft's way. But he got lucky for 20 years. You had the greatest quarterback and the greatest coach to ever do it. And they hid the fact that he's cheap. He doesn't want to spend the money to put the roster on the field that has to be put on this field to win. He comes out and says, well, Calvin Ridley, his girlfriend wanted to stay closer to home and she didn't want to come into the Northeast. But then when Elliot Wolf holds his press conference, he says, well, yeah, it was a money thing. No kidding, it was a money thing. You don't think we knew, Bob, that it was a money thing? Of course we knew it was a money thing. You're talking about his girlfriend. What? What do you want? You had too many Mai Tais on a beach in the Bahamas. If you think that we thought it was because his girlfriend wanted to live closer in the South, come on, Bob. Listen, the clock is ticking, tick-tock, 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 because everybody's starting to figure out that you're cheap and everything you blamed on Bill Belichick, really you had a lot more to do with it than met the eye. And now people are starting to figure that out because you can't use Bill as a scapegoat. Bill's not going to stand there and take the blows for you anymore. Certainly Gerard Mayo can't. He doesn't have that credibility or the ability to do that at this point. After free agency, you still have the worst offense in the league. I said it. Not bottom 5, the worst offense in the league based on the collection of guys you have on this current roster going into the draft. That's how good your free agency was. That's how good it was. The only good thing that came out of this free agency period besides Ueno, it's Stephon Diggs left the Buffalo Bills. You're not going to face them 2 times a year anymore. How about that? That's probably the best thing that came out of this free agency because we couldn't him. How's that, Bob? I'm so disgusted with this whole draft season. I had to wait. I had to let it pent up a little bit, but now it's draft time. And if we don't draft a wide receiver, I'm going to lose my mind. That's it. Listen, we're going to do something, Chris, to calm me down the next 3 days. This is nuts.
And ladies and gentlemen, it's Thursday, and the draft hasn't begun yet. So make sure you tune in next week to our draft recap show because that's going to be fun. Mark, listen.
Mark will be doing it from his hospital bed.
Right. Yeah, they're going to take him out on a stretcher tonight. Look, here's the thing. And if anybody in the Kraft world is watching this thing, it isn't that we don't have respect for you and everything you put into this team for the 20 years, whatever it is, and all that nonsense.
Yeah.
It isn't that. You, Mr. Kraft, have set a level of expectation for us. And you told us for 30 years, okay, you deserve better. The fans of New England deserve a winner. We expect to win. Okay. Well, here we are. We expect to win. We expect to be the best. You set that level, not me. And now I'm holding you to it. So you can't act like a John Henry and say, hey, we're okay with winning this amount of championships. Now we're going to coast. Because that's what it seems like is happening right now. Okay? And we're not going to stand for that. I wear this shirt proudly. Okay? For those of you on the radio, I'm wearing the old logo shirt right now. The old Patriots logo shirt. No, seriously. And that's why it's so upsetting to us. So it isn't about respect level and all that. We call you cheap. It's about the expectation that you set. Not me. You set it. So now you can't become the Cleveland Browns anymore. You can't. So when you kicked Belichick out the door, when you kicked him to the curb, okay, your ego told you, your ego said, I need to get credit. I need to be the face of the, I need to be, well, it's a double-edged sword now. You want it? You got it. Okay? And your son's sitting over there too. You got it too. Sitting over there with Robert Glazer and all those people that are trying to do things. So I've been saying this for 8 months or so. You're all going to start to understand, was it really Bill? Mark, was it really Bill?
No.
I don't know.
No.
We'll see, because I'll tell you this right now. If they take the quarterback, I think they're going to take the quarterback. I think it'll be May. I hope the hell it isn't McCarthy. But that second round pick, pay very close attention to that.
That's the key pick.
Because if they take a tackle with that pick, like Mims, somebody like that, that's a Belichick draft. That's a Bill Belichick draft. So what the hell did you fire him for? You didn't get anybody in free agency. Okay, you paid your own guys. Too much. You paid your own guys. Duggar.
Chris, you paid a bunch of guys that from a team that won 4 games.
Right. I don't have a problem with Brissett being a bridge guy. Fine, whatever. I don't. But he's not going to win anything. But
But even as a bridge guy, Chris, was he the best you could get?
Nah, there was probably more.
They didn't want to pay. They didn't want to pay.
No, I would have called Tom. Get Tom out of retirement. Come on, come over here and play 2 years. I'll give you 5% of the team. Let's go.
That's gonna cost. That costs money, Chris.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing, Mark. That's the kit and caboodle. Right? I'm still excited for tonight, though. In the next 3 days. He's disgusted, Joe. Look at him.
I'm already disgusted because I know how this is going to play out with this team. So I'm already disgusted.
Yeah, because they're going to go quarterback, tackle.
I'm going to tell you who they're taking as a wide receiver in the second round. They're going to take a receiver in the second round, and I'm going to throw all my books in the garbage, and I'm turning the draft off. And I'll see you next Thursday because I'm not watching any more draft. They're going to take the guy from South Carolina, Leggett, another N'Keal Harry. They're going to take Leggett out of South Carolina in the second round. I got about 10 guys ahead of him, and I'm going to throw my book in the garbage.
Well, that's it. You heard it. You heard it here.
That's my prediction. That's who they're going to take, and I'm going to throw everything in the garbage when they take it.
The book like this that we got right here, it's going to go into the trash, Mark says. So, hey, listen, he's right, and we've been on this thing for the last year. This is nothing new if you watch this show. So make sure you keep tuning in because you get the real deal New England feel right here. So good stuff, Mark. Catone's Comments was presented by Corso and Catone. The real deal New England feel, Saturdays, noon to 1 p.m. Eastern. Sponsorships are available. Email us, corso.catone@gmail.com. Hey, when we come back, on to hear from one of you in the nation in Heated Hotline. No flipping.
Mark, I'm serious. I think I lost my mind.
Certainly, it was an exciting show.
I want Murray.
That's
crap
it.
What is wrong with
Get him on this damn show.
you? Lost your mind tonight.
That's all I have to say.
Lost your mind.
What are you writing now?
So I'm working over here. You're talking about nonsense. I'm working.
That's why we are the real deal New England feel. It's going to be real.
Corso's right. That's why we are the real deal New England feel. Because of how disgusted Mark is right now. You should see what he looks like right now. Everybody, go onto YouTube. Look at how disgusted he is.
Please.
Well, let's see if it
even started yet.
let's see if anybody out there in the nation is disgusted like we are. We're going to hear from one of you in Heated Hotline. Joe, let's have it.
Hi, guys. It's Jen from Cranston. So let me start by saying the Red Sox suck, but the starting pitching has been really good, but the hitting hasn't been great, and the defense is atrocious. I don't know what to make of this and need to be talked in.
Okay.
And
he can always rely on
Jen, whenever Jen calls in, she's beating somebody up.
Can you imagine? Imagine hanging out with Jen.
You need 2 packs of cigarettes and a bottle of bourbon to hang around with Jen.
You think you're pissed off. She comes flat out, says the Red Sox suck.
They suck.
She says they suck. But she likes starting pitching.
All right.
The hitting.
By the way, they're getting injured one by one.
Well,
so I don't know what's going to be left.
So listen, thank you, Jen, for the call as always, loyal listener. So she hits some things here, Mark, and it's a good opportunity. If you got a few things on the Yankees, we'll talk about that too. But with the Red Sox, yeah, we thought coming in that it was going to be the hitting was okay. The lineup was going to be all right. Now, we got injuries you're dealing with. Okay. But hitting was going to be okay. But the starting pitching was going to be an issue, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's worked. It's worked quite the opposite right now. I mean, your rotation, you're talking Whitlock, Crawford, Bello, Tanner Hawk. I mean, right now, look, Carter Crawford leads the American League in ERA.
He does. Chris, up until last week, the staff led the league in ERA, the starting rotation.
Yeah. And so, he's posted what, 3.43 ERA, 26 starts, 9.5 strikeouts, something like that, right? Only 2 walks a game, 3 walks. That's so good production.
But now the kid Bello is on the injury list, right?
Yeah.
So they're starting to Houck, I think, was a little banged up the other day. I don't think he's going to miss a stop, but he was sore. So
because they already got guys up Pavetta. They already got guys.
Pavetta is already out. Yeah. So
and now, not to mention they have other injuries. Now Jen talks about the lineup, the hitting, right? I mean, you got guys that are, Devers was missed some time. O'Neal.
He's back. O'Neal, yep.
They're back, but Devers, that may be something that nags him all season.
I was just going to say
O'Neal has an injury history, so I expect to see him back out again at some point. And of course, you got Trevor Story out for the season. So look, injuries are definitely an issue, and the depth of this team is just not there.
And the bullpen, Chris, is not good. So as good as the starting pitching is, when you get to the bullpen, it's a crapshoot. You're rolling the dice with this bullpen.
And so, like, they're winning. I mean, they're winning some games. They're not.
They are. But when you look at the record of the teams they've beaten, Chris, they're beating teams that are either below 500 or maybe a hair above 500. They beat Cleveland. They did one game, but Baltimore beat up on them. For the most part, Cleveland beat up on them.
They're 3.5 out from New York, if that matters at this point. They're 14-12, and they got a lot of these injuries.
Yeah.
So,
listen, Chris, they're going to end up right about where we thought. Well, I think they'll get close to 90. After the start they had, you said, maybe they'll get 88 or 89. You might be right, Chris. They're probably going to end up between 85 and 88. Does that get you in the? I don't know.
Maybe 85.
But does that get you in the wild card discussion in August? Probably.
I mean, over 80 games is going to get you 82, 83, 84, 85. Yeah. That's going to get you in the discussion somewhere.
Yeah.
Because to do that, you're going to have to beat the division.
Chris, with their salary and what they've spent and how they're structured, they'll be thrilled with that. That's all they want, Chris. They'll be thrilled with that.
And then the defense.
The defense, she is right, is atrocious. She's absolutely right about that.
It's so I don't know what to make of that. And I don't even know if Cora is engaged anymore at this point.
Chris, I think I could take 3 Advil and go out to shortstop and probably field the ball just as good.
That's it. 3 Advil.
Just 3 Advil. I can go out
3
there.
Advil. That's it. No amphetamine.
Maybe a couple of other,
like that.
maybe something else, but I can go out there and play shortstop, I think.
I think we got to get your son in here for 10 minutes of rebuttal on that one. That ball would be cooking by you. Whoop. He'd be looking. He's right. Listen, Jen is right. Defense sucks, but it would have been nice to say, hey, you know what, this pitching is doing well, and now the hitting the hitting's there too.
Yep.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Mark, we have a minute left. We might as well take this time. Talk about the Yankees. I mean, they got, what are they, 17 wins right now? They're leading.
Yeah, Yankees are leading the division. Well, they're battling out. I might be half a game up on Baltimore. But they're leading the division. They're playing better, I think, than we thought they would, Chris. When we were a little afraid when what the heck's his name went out? Cole. When Garrett Cole went out, we were concerned about that, and
Absolutely.
we were saying, go get Snell. Get Snell. Right? Snell's injured. He's going on the IL. So that was probably a smart thing they did. And they're doing all this, Chris. I'm glad you brought up Judge. They're doing all this as Judge is hitting under the Mendoza line. For those of you that don't know what the Mendoza line is, it's 200. He's hitting under 200, right? So
Which is,
and
that's
and
not going to stay that way.
no. Soto,
Rizzo.
Juan Soto's putting up MVP numbers.
Yeah.
And that's who's been carrying them has been Soto, Rizzo, Volpe, Cabrera. These guys have been carrying them. Stanton every so often throws something in. But the starting rotation, Chris, has pitched better than we thought they would as a whole. And the bullpen is a little shaky, I think. You would agree with that. The bullpen sometimes drives you nuts.
They're going to need to make a move there.
Yes.
They're going to need to make a midseason move and bring something into the bullpen, into that rotational move. The younger guys are playing better, I think. Somebody who irritates the hell out of me in that bullpen. So I'm not even going to say his name. But anyway, so we'll see. We'll track it all season long. You keep tuning in. Jen, we appreciate the call. So Heated Hotline was presented by Corso Law Group, corsolawgroup.com. Hey, we come back. Mark's going to get all irritated again because we're going to talk draft. We're going into the 4th, 5th, and 6th round when you're listening to this. So we're going to give you a few guys to look for in the late rounds. Stick around. You're not going to want to miss it. All that and more right after this.
No one ever thinks they will be in need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. Corso Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Their 20-plus years experience and attention to detail has helped thousands of people who found themselves in a situation in Arizona. Whether it's a traffic ticket or more serious issue, talk with these expert attorneys. CorsoLawGroup.com.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England feel. All right, we're talking draft. We're irritated. We're happy. We're pissed. We're going to talk 4th, 5th, 6th rounds. Going to do it in Pat's Nation, Joe. Okay, so when you're listening to this or watching this, they'll have started the 4th round. They'll go 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, right, Mark? And
yeah.
So who's going to be left? We'll see what happens. We'll talk next week about who they took and break them all down. But we want to give you a few names because Mark and I both agree that they're not going to take the receivers we want where we want. So maybe we got a few of them later in the draft that can be some pearls. Got a couple of offensive tackles and a few defensive guys. Mark, we got our book out. Got my draft book, one of my draft books, and we're ready to go. So, Mark, talking about let's start on the offensive side of the ball. It's where we've been all season long. Give us a few wide receivers that you can look at later in the draft that people should be looking to.
So one of the guys, Chris, that I love. First of all, I wouldn't wait till the 4th round, Chris. So I think in the 3rd round you're going to take one. I think I like Brendan Rice out of USC.
Well, because we're in the 4th round now.
We're in the 4th round, but I understand that. But I'm hoping they take one in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
Raekwon McMillan from Washington is going to be a 3rd rounder that I love. 4th round, Chris, I don't think I would take a receiver. I would take Ben Sinnott, the tight end out of Kansas State. And they say tight end isn't a need for them. It is a need. It's a need.
Yes, it is.
Because I think Hunter Henry's overrated. I really do. I don't know what the obsession is with Hunter Henry. He looks good because you got nothing else at the position. His backups are terrible. They just signed a guy now, another tight end off the rack tight end. You got a guy that's 107, Hooper. For that, but he's 107 years old. He's your other tight end. What? Austin Hooper? So I would take Sinnott in the 1st round, Chris. I would take receiver in the 2nd round, and I would take receiver in the 3rd round. I know they're going to probably take a tackle, but in the 4th round, Chris, I would take a tight end. I think you need a tight end desperately on this team. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And he gives you something you don't have in a tight end.
Yes.
I mean, Hunter Henry is what he is. He's basically a receiver. This kid from Kansas State is going to give you he's a do everything kind of guy. And looking at tackle. I mean, everybody's talking about offensive tackle. I'm pissed because I think they're going to take one. We'll see if I'm right, but I think they're going to take one in the 2nd round. I don't like that, but they're going to do it. But some guys to look at later in the draft in these rounds that are happening right now that you can go to. One of the guys I really, really like is Christian Jones from Texas. This is a kid. He may go in the 3rd round, so he may not be there today, but possibly. He's a swing tackle. He's not this guy that's going to just step into left tackle. Okay. Nobody you're getting in this stage of the draft is going to be somebody that's coming in starting at left tackle. I mean, that's just not the case. But he's a people mover. Okay. He's good in his hand technique, his leg drive he makes a good impact in the running game. And he can inside strike to stall the rushers, to put him, to give him that extra second, now he's much better with his hands than I would say some of the tackles that are ranked ahead of him. Okay. And so that's something to look for. What I don't like about him, and this is where he's the project, he ducks his head at outside rushers. So when that happens, guys get around him with relative ease, and so you have that problem. But that's something that with some decent coaching, can be fixed, Mark, right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And one of the other guys that's maybe even later than that would be a Javon Foster from Missouri. Again, another swing type tackle. Got 35-inch arms. Knows how to use them. So some of these guys you can look for in that. But Mark,
Chris, the other guys that I think will be there in the fifth round, fifth round, right around there. I think Luke McCaffrey will be there. Christian McCaffrey's brother. I think he's a player, Chris. The kid can play multiple positions. You can use him as out of the backfield. You can use him in the slot. You can move him in motion. He'll be there, Chris. I think in the fourth, fifth round.
Yeah,
I think the kid from USC showed really well, Chris, at the combine, but he also showed well in the East-West Shrine game. Was Taj Washington out of USC was a lot of times was a security blanket for Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
He's a guy in the fifth round. In the sixth round, if you're talking about receiver, here's my sleeper, Chris. Fifth, sixth round, maybe sixth round. I got one every year. So the kid, Bub Means, out of Pitt. His wide receiver coach is now at Pitt is now the Patriot wide receiver coach. Okay. Chris, at the combine, he ran the third fastest running speed in route running at the combine. Okay. He's 6'1", 212, sneaky fast. Like I said, he ran the third fastest route running at the combine, Chris. He's going to be there in the fifth round, early sixth round. He's a guy that can play the X, Chris. And I think you could steal him there. And he would be a contributor right out of because of his speed and his athleticism. Yeah, he's got a little to learn. I mean, obviously you're not taking him in the first round. That's why he's a fifth, sixth round pick. But I like him, Chris. He's going to be a sleeper that people are going to say when somebody drafts him, where the hell did this kid come from?
Yeah.
Corso and Catone called him.
Well, we had it last year. We had Butte. We had Douglas. Those were the guys we liked.
Listen, Butte didn't get on the field, but I think he's going to contribute this year, Chris.
Well, he won't get pushed off the field. That's the one thing the new regime will do is they'll play their guys. That
Chris,
they draft.
I know it's Saturday, and we're airing the show. I'm going to make another prediction. As I've been studying the team, Judon's getting traded this weekend.
Okay.
Judon's getting traded. So keep in the back of your mind, is there's an edge rusher in this draft in the middle of rounds that we could take to replace Judon? Because I think they're going to move him for collateral, draft capital.
Because they haven't.
He's the only reason I watch.
They haven't extended him, Chris, and they're extending all these guys.
Joe's got him in every wash that we use.
Well, we're going to have to redo all our washes.
Have to change everything.
He's the one guy, Chris. How come they haven't extended him?
I just was about to say that. They haven't touched the money.
He's going to go, and he's going to be traded in the next 3 days. You watch.
Well, you heard that. Draft. Well, speaking of defense, Mark, couple of guys that I want you to pay attention to. And like Mark with the wide receivers, I always have somebody that we can look at in the linebacking core or so on. The one guy I really like, I mentioned him last week a little bit, was Jeremiah Trotta Jr., okay? He'll go, I think he goes in this round, in the fourth round. He's out of Clemson. I know I don't want to sound like Mr. Bill, but he's a smart linebacker. He is, okay? He's got a lot of intelligence. But no, listen, when you're getting drafted that low, that's something you really do need to look for. what's his football IQ? He's got good pedigree, obviously. Okay. He's always in the right position. That's what I love about this guy as an off-ball linebacker. He's always in the right position. He's a little smaller. His lack of length, size, explosiveness, that's limiting his start. Who does that sound like? Not that big of a guy, not that fast of a guy, good instincts, smart. Who? Come on.
Listen,
54.
I've been studying offense.
Teddy Bruschi. It's a guy like that has that kind of instinct.
But I think he's more athletic than Bruschi.
No, well, I mean, everybody is in this day and age. But my point to you is, I don't think he would disagree with that, But my point to you is he's got that type of instinctual – he can instinctually play the game, and he understands it, and he's got the pedigree. He's a reach, but I'll take those instincts, and I'll coach him up as an off-ball linebacker. So pay attention to him wherever he goes.
And Chris,
this is the kind of guy that Baltimore would take.
Yep. And Chris, I'm going to tell you something. You mentioned Clemson. Belichick would never take a guy from Clemson. He never he's got an issue. He had an issue with that coach from Clemson, Dave Ball Sweeney. The last 5-6 years since Sweeney's been the coach, they've constantly had players drafted in the NFL that have become decent, good player.
Yeah.
That was a school Belichick X. You never heard him take anybody. We didn't even look at guys from there.
They were on the blackball list.
They were on the blackball list.
Cool. Well, here's another guy that I'm thinking I got him ranked about 100. And I don't ever say his name right, but Liufau, Liufao out of Notre Dame. FAU out of Notre Dame. Okay. Powerful downhill linebacker, attacks the ball carriers and blockers he's nasty. He's a nasty kind of player, and he attacks them. Truly an inside guy. His instincts, again, another guy with good instincts, good in zone coverage. So I like him in dropping back and going backwards. So he's going to contribute inside for either a 4-3 or a 3-4. And this day and age, you're playing everything. You play all kinds of defenses. There's no defenses anymore that are just, we're strictly a 4-3 defense. Not really, So I don't mind him going back into coverage, but he's one of those guys. He's a dog. He's a player. Look for that guy in the 4th, 5th round. And the last guy I would say is J.D. Bertrand out of Notre Dame, his teammate, okay? 5th, 6th round guy. Tough, smart, competitive. Little undersized, okay? But he's another guy that can bring it. He's another guy that can get lateral. I like his speed as well, Mark, with this. Because they're going to need some help at linebacker. I mean, that's it. We know off ball is an issue. I'm sick and tired of looking at Bentley and Tavai. Tired of it.
Chris, I have a funny feeling that Bentley's another guy, Chris. I don't know if Mayo's too thrilled with Bentley. I wouldn't be surprised, Chris, if he does draft somebody. No. But Belichick loved him. I'm saying I don't think Mayo has that love for him. So I think over the next year or so, you will see him try to replace him with somebody that's more athletic.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he has that feeling towards him. And I'm going to tell you two guys, Chris, that I know listen, I know it's Thursday, but I'm going to give you two guys. We're filming on Thursday. If the Patriots take a wide receiver in the 2nd round, not taking who I want, and they're not taking who you want, they're going to take one of two guys in the 2nd round. If they take a wide receiver, which we think they're going to take a tackle. And
it's not going to be McConkey?
Nope. And you are going to lose your mind. They're going to take the kid, I'm telling you, Xavier Leggett from South Carolina. And the other guy, I think they like Chris. He's Tyquan Thornton Jr.
Don't tell me the kid from Texas that runs the 4-2. Please, don't tell me him.
No.
Good. At least I don't want to hear that.
The kid from Oregon, Troy Franklin. He's 6'3", 187, 185. Chris. He's Thornton. He just runs down the field. And the
You're going to break him in half. You snap him in half. He tries to get off a block, and you snap him in half.
Chris,
he tries to get off a jam, and his wrist, he breaks his wrist.
They met with this kid Franklin at the combine, and they had him in to Foxborough. They've met with this kid twice, this kid from Oregon. When I watched the tape, I said, oh, my God, Chris will lose his mind. It's another.
He can't get separation. I watched him. I've seen him. I studied him. He can't get separation. He fit perfect with this team because he can't get any separation.
He's got blazing speed down the field.
Blazing. That's great. It's good. You can make him a track star. Send him to Paris this summer. Send them to Paris with Thornton.
Do you know there's something
one-way
wrong with
ticket,
you?
Joe.
Paris,
Send them a
wants
one-way
to go to
ticket on
Paris.
Corso and Catone, so they can go run sprints in Paris for the Olympics. You know, Mark, no good. Want to talk safeties?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Want to talk safeties a little? We need
Go
one.
ahead. Well, we definitely need one. Go ahead. What do you think?
Oh, I'm looking at center field safeties in today's draft, today's rounds. I like Kitchens out of Miami. Played in the right conference, right?
Yeah.
I think. I mean, played against good competition. He's a good all-around athlete. Good eye on where the quarterback's going. So he's able to look that route in, meaning he's able to look in zone and understand where the quarterback's looking off. So you can't. It's hard to look him off as a safety to freeze him. Okay, and he's got enough speed to get there. He's got good ball skills, and he comes down with interception. Good as a center field guy, as a single high safety, those kinds of things. So he anticipates good throws. He's lighter. He's a little lighter in size, so you have to get a little bigger. But he can become a starting free safety. He's a guy like that from Miami.
Okay.
Another guy is Kalen Bullock out of USC. Didn't like so much the competition they played against this year, but he's not as strong. I mean, I like Kitchens a lot better. So I don't know how much you're going to be able to trust him early in his career, but he's good in cover 3 and cover 1. Cover 1 is what led me to want to look at this guy, okay, as he can play that single high safety. But the guy I really, really like as a sleeper, somewhere in the 5th round, okay, and he's a versatile athlete, is this Mustafa out of Wake Forest, okay? His skill set mentally, he's a throwback. He's a strong safety more so. Okay. He doesn't have that fluid long speed. See, this is the kind of guy that could basically just flash and say, where the hell did he come from? And all of a sudden Duggar's an afterthought. You know what I mean? That kind of a guy. But he can be he doesn't have that kind of speed to be in single high much. But I do like him. If you're looking for another box safety, Mapu's not working out. This is a guy that can be something, and I think he'd be better than Mapu, in my opinion. Okay? And just really quick, corners. We need a corner. We need somebody at some stage in the draft. Jackson out of Oregon. Okay? Kyrie Jackson. He's he's tempting. He's a tempting prospect. Okay? He's got size, athleticism, and he does that, which doesn't come. The size and speed he's got, and athleticism doesn't come around that much. He has to anticipate routes a little better, which I think he'll learn. I think he'll get that. But he's fluid. He can go backwards well. He can come forward really well for his size. I really like that. So that's a guy that I think we should be looking at, Mark, in the 4th, 5th round. And then the kid Rakenstraw from Missouri, another guy, good football IQ. If you're looking for corners later in the draft, which we should be, Mark, right?
No, absolutely. Chris, one safety quickly that I think is interesting because he could play slot corner. He's versatile. Patriots, I mean, I think Mayo still is going to keep that versatile mindset of Belichick. He can play both safety, free safety, but I think he can definitely play free safety. I'd say 5th round, maybe 6th, 5th round is a safety out of Utah, Chris. Siori Vaki. I think it's just a name to keep in mind. He's there in the 6th round, and you haven't taken the safety yet, and the guys you've mentioned are off the board. He's a guy that's versatile, Chris, that can play different positions in the backfield, but he can play free safety.
So pay attention, because every year we give them, Mark. I don't know if they listen. They never listen to us, but they should. I mean, we've had guys on our board in that 5th, 6th, 4th round that have been players. So make sure you tune in. Let us know in Heated Hotline what you think. But Corso and Catone was presented by Corso Law Group. Get on, watch, listen to all our shows. They're up for you. Subscribe, thumbs up, get our notifications so you never, ever, ever miss a show. And make sure you tune in every Saturday, noon Eastern. We'll have Celtics Bruins playoffs next week talk. And we're going to have our draft recap. Don't want to miss that. And Catone's comments, anything you bring to the table, we will be ready. We are Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England feel. Enjoy the draft, everyone.
Now find Corso and Catone on AM 790, The Score, iHeartRadio, iTunes, wherever you podcast. or subscribe to the YouTube channel and catch the chaos every Saturday at noon.